Hello there, one and all. Welcome to Slapendipity, Hobos of Happy Slappy Town. I am Eric, who you may call Eric, and with me is Devon, who you may call Gibby.
You may call me that. And you know who else called me that?
You, your adoring fans.
My adoring fans, but there's actually something else I want to talk about in relation to that. I'm gonna be a little coy for a few seconds.
Oh,
So we're getting close to the end of the year, right? And we've
I'm
talked a
sorry.
couple
I was pulling
times.
out my fishing rod to catch the
You were
koi
doing what?
fish.
Oh lordy. Okay, I'll be a little bass about it. We're approaching the end of the year.
Okay.
And we talked in the beginning of the year about that little bingo card and like things that we want to cross off before the year, like goals, right?
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
New Year's resolution, but goals.
yeah. Big or
And
small.
big and small. And there's a lot of goals that I haven't done, right? Like in my head, when I think about the things I want to accomplish, I haven't accomplished a lot of them yet. But
Okay.
I think that I kind of overlook small accomplishments.
Mmm.
And so I do think that on this show, right, this show is sort of like our diary, right? Every week we talked about the important thing that happened. Something really big happened for me a few weeks ago, and we didn't talk about it just because by the time I got to recording the show, I'm like, oh, that's not really important. That's just like a silly little thing. But no, it is really important, and I want to talk about it.
All right, let's hear it. Let's show me your big important thing, Big Bass.
I was on Game Theory.
Oh,
They did a video about one of my FNAF theories on Game Theory.
and that was received well. They were like, "Hot diggity dog! Look at this Devon guy. He figured out that Charlotte is the female name of Chucky." I don't know what they were talking about.
Yeah, so again, they called me Gibby, right? That's my name. That's how we effortlessly
Yes,
transitioned into this topic.
effortless.
So yeah, they talked about Gibby's Horror Homestead. They talked about my theory, and that was really cool. And then I did a 2 hour long live stream on my channel where I had Tom from Game Theory on, and we just chit chatted. Um, and it was a big thing. It's back in January 1st, if you told me like, hey Devin, by the end of this calendar year, you'll be mentioned on Game Theory several times. An entire episode will be dedicated to you and your friend TD's videos, and you'll have a live stream with Tom. I would have said, that's awesome. I'm going to work extra super hard to make sure that that happens. And then it happened. And then a few days later, I'm just like, well, back to the old grind, back to the making the
Mm,
next video that, oh, it's not doing as well as I'd hoped it would do. Oh, back to, you know, life being
yeah,
rough.
back to what it was before and what it will be after.
Yeah. So I feel like there wasn't enough celebration. So I wanted to mention that in the show, just one as a reminder of like, wow, there's probably been a lot of like celebration stuff that we don't mention on the show, but that's the point of the show. And then two, I did want to sort of mention that that happened, and I'm very proud of that.
You should be. Congratulations.
Thank
I
you.
mean, you got recognized by Senpai, and I'm only half joking.
Who would you want to be recognized by, Eric?
Uh,
What's your game theory, senpai?
I don't know if gosh, I don't know. That hmm, there's so many people. I don't know. I'm, I'm kind of content not being recognized. I don't want
That's
someone,
fair.
to be like, oh, hey, you're that guy. And I'm like, oh. So,
Understandable.
shrug.
Yeah, it's interesting how I sort of view things in my quote unquote professional life as like as unimportant, right? In my daily life,
Hmm.
I'm like, well, I'm not at my weight goal, and I'm single, and I didn't do. I'm actually currently planning. I'm going to Florida next week. We have to talk about that because I won't be here. Um, and like that's cool, but those are personal life things, and those
Sure.
matter. But my work things, just like I brush them off as not being real. That's work. Who cares about work?
Hmm.
And I think that's silly. I think work accomplishments
Yeah.
are real accomplishments.
Well, they are. You put a bunch of time, effort, and energy into work, regardless of whatever type of work that is, and it makes up a significant deal of one's life, and you should be praised and congratulated.
Praise me, Eric.
Oh, hail the Gibby Devon. Hail Toto.
So, okay. I have a ramble I want to go on.
Okay.
This is something I teased a couple episodes ago, but I said I was too tired to do it justice. Yes, it's been a little while.
Okay, this is more than a tease. It might have turned into etching.
Okay, let's not. This is one of those topics.
It's just a meme.
One of those topics that, depending on what we say, right, could get us canceled.
Okay.
Now, this isn't actually something that either of us can answer, because this is something that I noticed that women were saying.
Okay.
And so I want to ask your opinion, because I'm very torn on it.
Okay.
So I'm on Twitter, right?
I'm sorry.
I'm on the Twitter. I go on it. I read tweets. And over the last couple weeks to months, I've noticed two attitudes or two thoughts that have sort of gone semi-viral separately.
Okay.
That are in complete contradiction with each other. They're totally at odds, these two attitudes.
All right.
So the first, which is also stuff I saw on like Instagram Reels and on Twitter and just like on the internet, was a few months ago, women were talking about how it was like this one woman who's like sitting in her car. It's probably a TikTok, but I saw it on Instagram.
Sure.
And she was like, I heard that men never get over their first loves. And I went and I asked my dad, and he agreed. He basically started talking about this girl that he dated in like high school and never got over. And then, I talked to other men, like my guy friends, and they all had this wistful look in their eye, and like, it's just factual. Like I talked to all these men, and she's like, so I guess we need to like, women, if you want to find someone who truly loves you and truly cares about you, you have to find a man who's never had a girlfriend before, because he can never fully love you since he'll never get over his first love.
I see.
And again, this is just one Instagram I saw, but I've seen the sentiment posted other places before, both Twitter and then other like forum websites, where they're like, yeah, no, that's like a universal thing. Men will never get over their first love, and women are like, ooh, I don't know about that. That's kind of weird to me, or I don't understand that. Things like that. Have you seen the sentiment expressed on the internet?
I have not. We occupy very different spaces of the internet.
That's so funny.
Okay, so do you want to say the second thing, or should I answer the first?
I guess I'll hear your commentary on the first. I was expecting you to say, like, oh, yeah, 'cause I don't know, you go on Tumblr, you go on weird sites.
Tumblr isn't that weird.
Yes, it is. I was kind of expecting you to be like, oh, yeah, I see people talking about that all the time.
I maybe saw one video one time being like, hey, guys, what's up with this? And then I just didn't.
Yeah. So what's your thought in your experience?
Well, I guess it depends a little bit on how we classify things, right? Because if you were to say, am I over my first girlfriend? Yes, 100% absolutely. No issues. Goodbye. Respectfully. If you were to say first love, I think it then gets a little messy, and then it's like, I would argue my first love was at like 5, but people are like, no, well, that's not love. Means. That's just, you're being a silly little child. And I'm like, but to me, it was real.
No, we're talking high school sweetheart, young love, innocence, first time experiencing romantic feelings, that kind of thing. Specifically that experience.
If we're talking specifically that, yeah, I'm over that.
I would question for you. So kind of like how you specify like first girlfriend versus first romance.
Right.
I think it's easy to be over the relationship
Mm.
Whereas sort of the experience of that time in your life, or the feelings that you had, again, like the reason that it's first is it has to do with like the innocence and
Sure.
the circumstances, etc. Right? Because it's just factual that you'll never
Have another first.
Yeah, like the second person you date, you'll compare to the first, and the third person you date, you'll compare to the first two, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
So like I can see I can see that sort of being why it's universal is simply because the experience of young love is so impactful. Whether or not you actually even like still think or care about the person themselves, it's still the experience that people mean.
Well, and but that's just, if you remember the best parts of anything, you're gonna look at it fondly. So if you're like looking off wistfully as you remember the best parts of your first love, like, yeah, that makes sense. You're looking at the best parts with rose tinted glasses. But if you factor in all of it, or I think people would be like, well, it was, there is a magic to it, right? Like the first time, and gosh, and it's a little weird for me because we're not including like 5 years old. So then I would say the first thing like this for me that qualifies that wasn't a girlfriend was this weird, complicated-ish I got into. And even then Japan?
No, we're talking about your high school girlfriend.
High school girlfriend?
That's what we're talking about.
Okay. Listen, I lived a very crazy high school life. I didn't.
No, you didn't.
Damn! You have to go for the throat.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, I
But you're familiar with the concept.
Well, yeah, with the concept, yeah.
So it's kind of funny for me is that seeing this go viral was that I had actually kind of had this conversation with my mother many years ago. So my older brother kind of had issues where he had trouble getting over his like first real girlfriend. And then I had issues kind of getting over my first real girlfriend. And so my mom told me this story where she met up with one of her old friends. They were like at a bar or a restaurant and they were just talking. And she wanted to get his insight because she's like, okay, my two sons both have sort of the same problem where they're extremely depressed years after their relationships ended and they just can't get over it. So she goes to, her friend Bob.
Sure.
She's like, Bob, I'm having this problem with my young adult sons and like they can't get over their exes. And she's like, do you ever think about your first girlfriend? And the way that she told me the story is he got like teary-eyed and he's like, yeah, little Samantha in 9th grade, she was so beautiful and it was like the greatest experience of my life. And, this is a guy who's married with children and he sits there at the bar getting, wistful,
teary-eyed,
thinking about this, 40-year-old relationship that he had when he was in high school. And my mom's like, yeah, it's like weird. I guess that's just a thing that men do. And my thought was, okay, I guess women are heartless.
Lols.
But yeah, and to see this be a trend that went viral, I'm like, oh, I guess there is something moderately universal about this concept. Or I should say something gendered about this concept.
Maybe I'll ask my friends about this. Because, I don't know. It doesn't feel applicable to me. Maybe there's more signs to be learned if we researched it.
Possibly. The other trend that sort of conflicted with this.
Okay.
I have a feeling, again, I cannot emphasize this enough. This is not me saying this. This is something I'm repeating someone who on Twitter said this.
Okay.
It was another woman.
Okay.
And she was saying something to the effect of, people who didn't experience young love, so high school,
Right.
aren't real, like, they missed out on something so formative and fundamental about being human that if you meet them in their late 20s or just adulthood in general, she said, I can always tell when I meet someone if they were in a relationship in high school, because the ones that were are normal, and the ones that weren't are missing something from their soul and aren't and can never be full humans.
Jeez, that's aggressive.
Extremely aggressive.
What?
And she basically said something to the effect of, I could never, have a serious, like, really close friendship or date. I could never date a guy who didn't experience young love because I think that they are not full humans.
Okay.
So this is the other side of the coin. Girl number 1 says, I could never date someone who had a high school girlfriend because I'll never get over her. And girl 2 says, I could never date someone who didn't have a girlfriend in high school because they missed some, important formal development and they're not a full adult now and they never will be, and they'll be perpetually a child because they can't comprehend the magic of, young love.
Yeah.
So these are 2 things that different women said that went viral.
That is bizarre. That's so...
What's your thought on the second take?
I don't know. I kind of just want to be like, is she okay?
People can be aggressive on the internet. Listen.
Yes. But, like, what... Who did she date? What happened in her relationship where she found out, like, this guy was, like, I don't know, mean or rude, or he did something so crazy, and she was like, oh, it's because you didn't have a first love. That explains all of it. That's so weird to me.
Okay, let's unruffify it. Let's tone it down a little bit. Do you think that kind of formative experience creates sort of like 2 classes of people? Where, like, if you experienced it, then you'll turn out one way. And if you didn't, and you can't, right, it's too late.
Right.
Then that would sort of drastically alter the course of your life or your personality.
I mean, I suppose so, but I feel like you could make that argument for anything. Like, did you do crack cocaine in high school? It would really change your personality. Like, yeah, of course it would. And not even, it doesn't even have to be drugs, right? Like, did you break a bone? Like, I have never broken a bone. I am very lucky. But I imagine if I had broken a bone in high school, I'd probably live life a little bit more cautiously. I think so, like, yeah, I mean, in the sense, like, any great life experience, and even minor ones, can change your life in varying directions in numerous ways. So, like, yeah, I guess. But at that point, you're just what-ifing the world.
Yeah, I might compare it to, like, death. So, like, I know people who lost all 4 of their grandparents before they were out of elementary school. And I didn't lose any until I was out of college. And I still have 2 left. So, I feel like the idea that, like, you're close with your grandma, maybe they live with you, maybe you see them every day. And being 7 years old and having your grandma who, bakes you cookies and you love, and it's your grandma and she lives with you, and then she dies one day. That's going to affect you differently at age 7 than it will at age 23.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of like what you just said. It's almost like her take is true in that it's very obvious that having extremely important formative life events happen to you will change you. It's the extrapolation that people who didn't experience that aren't worth dating that I found personally.
Yeah.
found to be crazy.
No, I mean, that's the most wild take. I can't imagine, like, if you put literally anything else in there, it's also just as wild. Like, if you didn't get drunk until, when you were in high school, I just can't date you. If you didn't break a bone before you graduated high school, I just can't, like, you can turn it into an ad-lib.
Yeah, I do understand to an extent that, like, especially since I've been single for so long now, that when you are single, you sort of find yourself focusing, I guess I'll say focusing more on your own interests.
Sure.
Right? Like, since I'm single and I like, I don't know, like Pokemon cards, right? I buy a lot of them and I put them on my shelves, and it's something I'm really, really into.
Right.
Whereas if I was in a relationship, I would still be as interested in Pokemon as I always have been.
Mm.
But because I'm sharing a space with someone, or because only a certain amount of my time can be devoted to my personal hobbies, like card collecting, I would never have gotten to the point where I have an entire shelf full of stuff. Because my time, energy, and money would have been, divided evenly between me and my partner's interest. If that makes sense. So,
sure.
Before my shelf was full of stuff, it would have been very easy to get a girlfriend. But now that my shelf is full of stuff, I now have to, like, empty the shelf to make room for her, if that makes sense.
Well, you can have more than one shelf.
Okay, but the shelf is a metaphor.
I know,
for the way
shelf
you spend
is a
your
metaphor.
time. If I play video games with the boys every single night, and now I have a girlfriend, I need to stop playing video games with the boys every single night. And if I'm like, well, I don't I kind of like the girl, but, like, not enough to stop playing games with the boys every night, so maybe I won't pursue this relationship, and then you stay single forever.
Mm.
So, like, the idea that someone was in a relationship when they were young, or have just sort of always been in and out of relationships, or maybe had one or two long-lasting ones, they're sort of primed and they understand how to live with someone else in their life and how to compromise and how to, like, do all those relationship-y type things. Whereas you've been single, and if now you're in, like, your mid to late 20s or older, and you've never been in a relationship, it's going to be really, really hard to start dating that person. And because they're entering their first relationship, they don't know what they're doing.
So I have a few thoughts. A, if that's the case, they are putty in your hands. You can mold them how you want. Don't be mean or manipulative about it. But you could be like, oh, it's your first relationship? Let me show you the ropes. Let me,
You're being very, 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 I don't know, like, optimistic about that.
I mean, that's, the teaching someone, I think, is good. And I think people, maybe, I don't know. I think my more solid point, let me get off this flimsy board. People, just because they haven't been in a romantic relationship doesn't mean they do not know how to, like, share space and time and energy. Like, you've lived with your parents, presumably.
That clearly does not count.
18 years, maybe more, or with siblings, or with, like, the basic principles are the same. If I'm, sharing a room with someone, I'm like, okay, I have a certain amount of space, they have a certain amount of space. That, the food and
I do not think any of this is comparable.
I think it's totally comparable. Living with
your
anyone,
family has to put up with you. Your brother and your parents are not going to break up with you.
They could. Once you get to adulthood, right? I mean, sure, as a child, meh. But you could be disowned from your family or kicked out.
God. For not doing the dishes?
For more serious things.
Okay, but your girlfriend might break up with you for not doing the dishes.
Well, that's a little silly. If that's the
disagree.
only reason. If the only reason someone is breaking up with you is purely because of dishes.
It would be a pattern of behavior that would involve refusing to do the dishes.
Well, then that's a different thing, isn't it? Now, this is what clear diction is all about.
Okay, the point is that I do not think it's comparable to talk about living one-on-one with your partner as opposed to living in your parents' house. I don't think that the way that you would share space
Or
or chores or etc.
sure.
is
I
related.
think it doesn't even have to be right. Your roommates from college, roommates from post college, like
You're not
people live.
emotionally invested with these people.
You can be
Okay,
like
but that I don't know. I feel like you're being obtuse on purpose.
I there is a difference between a relationship and a roommate, sure, but the founding principles of sharing responsibility and cohabitating are the same. You're not gonna dump all of the chores on your roommate in the same way you don't want to dump all the chores on your partner because they're gonna get mad at you in very similar ways.
I think if I have a roommate,
Yeah.
right, I might have a desire to put in my fair share, but that would be because I have like, some sort of code of ethics in which I value the idea of like fairness, right?
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, I don't want to do his dishes. I don't want to clean the bathroom because like he's disgusting. So I might agree, okay, I'll do the dishes if you always take out the garbage. But that's like compromising for the sake of peace. It's a completely different thought process when you're talking about your partner.
I'd say you do the same thing in a relationship. You don't think your partner
that's
can
insanity.
Be disgusting? The hair clogging up the drain in the bathtub, you're like, wow, this is beautiful hair. I can't wait to pull it out.
With a roommate, I'd be like, the ideal scenario is you do all the chores so I don't have to, but I guess I'll do half to keep peace. With your spouse, it would be, I will happily do half because we're like partners. It's not a winner and lose scenario. If I'm just with my roommate, it's a win-lose scenario, right? It's like the more that he does, the less I have to do.
Well, but I mean, I guess it depends on your roommate situations, right? But you could just as easily have that mindset with a roommate as you do your hypothetical spouse. It doesn't have to be a win-lose. You can be like, I value this person and I'm going to do half of the chores because I want to. They improve my life.
Call me sexist, but I don't think I could ever value a man as much as I value a woman.
That is
and I think 99% of men would agree with that. If you're my roommate, and I see you on your knees scraping the floor, I'll be like, lol. If I see a woman on her, like, cleaning the floor, I'll be like, no, let me get that for you.
That's insane.
I know that you're different than most people, but I assure you that is how most men feel.
Everyone is equal. Everyone who spills the coffee on the carpet is getting on their knees to clean that stain up.
Sure.
Yeah, I might be in the minority take on that. I don't know. I'm not, surveying all of men. I think it's bold to be like 99% of men.
99% of men.
Nah. Maybe 50. I think 50 is like you can say anything with 50. 50% of men think the new iPhone is gonna, I don't know, the vibration setting will be an efficient massage technique for their foot. Listen, I fumbled. I fumbled, okay? Really the ball's loose. Anyway,
these two viewpoints, I find both to be, obviously they're both extreme, which is what helped them to go viral, right?
Yeah.
But I heard the first one, and I'm like, that's generally true. And I heard the second one, and I'm like, well, like I agreed to an extent, but you kind of went like really harsh with it.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here, and I'm like, I agree with both of them, as a man.
Right.
But I don't know what to take from that I don't know what to conclude from that sort of observation.
All right, you want me to
Like,
take
and
a stab at it?
yeah, I would say they almost feed into each other, right? If the idea is, a man will never get over his first love, well, then
Mm-hmm.
yeah, a man who's had a first love will necessarily act pretty differently than one who hasn't. So like, they're both, they can both be true. There's nothing wrong with thinking that both of those outcomes are accurate. Again, I don't think they're accurate to the extent these people are saying that they are.
Sure.
But like, again, I agree. I just don't know what I would say to, a woman who had either of those opinions as strongly as the people who posted those tweets did.
She comes up to you, just a friend who is a woman. She's like, Gibby Devon, I've heard both of these things. What do you think? And you just go, shrug, both are true. And she's just like, what the hell?
No, it would be like, well, just because someone, I'll never get over my first dog, it doesn't mean I don't love my other 5 dogs that I've had.
Right. Is that true?
Is what true?
About your dogs? Like, you love your first dog, like, and haven't gotten over it? And...
Okay, so I had a dog as a kid, right?
Yeah.
Since then, I've had, I guess now you could say 5. But the dog I had as a kid's the only one that's died.
Oh. Wow. That's crazy. What?
Well, because my current dog is 15 years old.
I
have
know,
2 dogs that are both 15.
That's wild.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Fair.
But yes, my childhood, I was 4 years old. We got her as a puppy, first dog. And also going back to the thing I said before, none of my grandparents died until I was in my 20s. So my first brush with death was my dog dying when I was like 14. And she was 11. So like, yes, I love that dog. She will always be the greatest dog that ever lived. I love my current dog, who's 15.
Right.
Who we got, 15 years ago. And it's not a contest.
Right. Interesting.
Love is infinite.
Wow. So optimistic. I agree, though. I kind of want to go on this dog thing, but I guess we'll put a pin in that for a second.
I'm literally holding a pin right now. I'll do it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Did you, how are we concluding this thing? The
I don't know, I guess...
sides of this love coin. First love coin.
I've been thinking about it just for a few months, and obviously the conclusion is we get a woman's opinion.
Well, sure.
Like, I'd love to ask just like a woman, maybe we can like find someone to talk to between episodes. Like, have you ever thought either of these things? What's your opinion on them? Because again, to the most the most soft extent, I agree with both of them. Not to the rough extent that both of those people said that, like, if you didn't have young love, you're not fully human. I'm not, that's an insane thing to say.
Yeah.
But again, I do agree with the notion that it makes you different. So yeah, I'd love to ask a woman their thought, and I'd love to ask, like, okay, have you thought of either of these things before? Does it, like, if you met a guy and he said either of these things, would that change how you view them, etc.? So I think that should sort of be one of our goals. Like, for next week, we should try to find someone to ask.
Well, maybe not next week.
Maybe, okay. We should try to find someone to ask.
Yeah.
And if anyone listening has any insight, either as a man or a woman or a non-binary person, I don't know. If you or any of your friends have had dealings with these kind of things, I'd love to hear just anyone's topic. Because I don't think that me and you are equipped to answer the question. As we are both men and we both had young loves, so it's kind of hard for us to just talk about it without any further experiences.
Yeah. I suppose. You can comment below or write in at slapendipity@gmail.com. Is it right? Slapendipity?
Yes.
Is there mail? Slapendipity mail?
No.
Or Slapendipity?
No. Slapendipity@gmail.com. Each letter in Slapendipity is singular. So there's one L, there's one P, there's one T, etc.
Wow. Fabulous.
Wow. Okay, what are your closing thoughts?
Truly kind of wild. I'd be curious, like, both truly wild. Especially because, like, what do you do, you know, right? I am thinking of this of the perspective of me, right? Where if a woman came up to me and was like, oh, did you have a first love? And she's like, oh, do you ever, like, think wistfully about it? And I'm like, no. Not really. Like, no. And then, like, what do you do from there as that woman where you're like, oh, I wasn't preparing for this. And then for the inverse, right? Or the other side of the coin, this woman comes up to you and is like, well, if you didn't have a first love, then you're not a human or whatever. And it's like, well, I did, and now I just don't care. Does that make me less human? Or more human than someone who is, obviously everyone is a human. But, like, yeah, that's so wild. I think the only thing I can say to the other side of the coin, because I feel like I didn't talk about it too much, right? If you have a first love and you're young and you, like, I feel like it's part of the, like, the culture, right? You, like, maybe you get swept up in the moment. You have your own little Romeo and Juliet-esque thing happen, maybe. You know, it's filled with drama and tension and passion. And so people then can kind of relate to each other on that extreme, and, like, maybe people that have done that, or maybe they have more of a zest for life, or they're more, like, I don't know, but it at the end of the day, to me, it kind of feels just like, if you don't have your driver's license by the time you turn 18, are you even human?
I mean, there's a lot of people who wouldn't date someone who has a driver's license. That's actually another big one.
I mean, you know, what are you gonna do? I've lived in New York City all my life. I've never needed one.
True.
Or LA, or actually, I don't know about that. I don't know what the metro situation is in LA.
Wow, okay. I'm going to take the pin out of this dog now.
Yeah.
Yelp. What's your thoughts?
Well, because I don't, you know, I have my first few animals, and I look at the memories fondly, and I enjoyed my time with them. But to be like, oh, I don't know. I'm just kind of mixed on it, right? Because love is infinite and we don't need to rank them. But I guess maybe just with time, I suppose, I'm just kind of, my feelings have lessened in some ways.
Interesting.
I don't know.
Is that all you had to say?
Yeah, basically. I mean, part of me is now curious of, like, is it because I moved a lot when I was growing up and I just got used to very quick the idea of, like, nothing in your life is something that you can hold on to because you can always leave it behind. I don't know. That's deep. And then it's no one's fault, right? You know, that's just kind of how life goes. And you're like, well, I just have to make peace with the fact that, you know, I will never see these people or pets or whoever again. And you can either dwell on that and get lost in the sorrow of it all, or try and move past it.
Or you can either move on and try to get past it, or it just kind of sounded like there was going to be an or to that sentence.
No.
Okay. Wow. I found this to be insightful.
Yeah.
What would you say? See, that's very interesting. I don't know. It's very interesting.
What's that?
A big part of me becoming a vegetarian was my love for my dog. So I find it interesting that, like, you know, I am not saying that just because you don't think about your dog and are sad about it does not mean you didn't love your dog. Obviously, that would be crazy to say. Um, but it's interesting that maybe if I didn't have that, I don't know, if I moved around a lot and didn't get whatever, then maybe I wouldn't be a vegetarian. That's very interesting to think about. Or would I always have been? Sure. It would just taken something different to happen.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Yeah, no, it's crazy the things that, like, can influence your life in the most obvious and most subtle ways.
Do you have any examples of that, or any things you would like to rant about, Eric?
Okay, examples of that specifically. No. Now that was a ramble, though. But I can turn us 180, right?
All right, let's go. Whee!
Maybe even 270.
That was the car turning.
Thank you.
That was the car turning.
I was on a walk the other day, and I saw a pine cone fall from a tree. And I was like, oh, wow, that pine cone must be ripe. It fell off, and that's the seed, and, maybe a new tree will grow, and that's great. Then I looked at the pine cone on the ground, and it was kind of green, and I was like, oh, buddy, you aren't ready. What happened? And I heard another pine cone falling through the tree, and I was like, that's crazy. 2 pine cones are ready at the same time? Well, whatever. And then a third pine cone, and I look up into the tree, and there's this squirrel just gnawing on pine cones by the stem that are being connected to the tree, and it's biting them off the tree, and so they fall on the ground, but it's too early. They're still green, and I'm just like, okay, this squirrel is responsible for this. It made 3 and then half a dozen others at least fall off this tree. And like, isn't that crazy that the squirrel is just like munch, and then those seeds will become trees one day, but now maybe they won't because it's too soon. And like, what does it mean to have instincts and like the value of life and how we all connect? And then I was thinking about how humans want to connect and they try to connect to each other, but I'd say it's part of the human condition, right? That we all think we're special or that like we live in a special time, right? I think there's something to like the specialty in our thoughts, so that like we are special or something. And then it's like, well, did the first human ever think they were special? Because they would be. But then they weren't the first human, right? Like the first fish out of the sea or whatever, that wasn't a human. And then the steps to the first human are related to the first, mammals, but like monkeys or chimps or whatever, right? And then if that is right, that like I forget the name of it, but like the evolutionary line of like chimp to man, and like they all must have thought they were special in their own way because of their thing, but maybe they didn't because they were so animalistic. And then you're like, okay, so maybe everyone everywhere all the time thought they were special, and maybe they were in their own way, but are like some more special than others. But then you're getting into a whole mess of it, right? How do you can't quantify that or anything like that. And then I was thinking of how I looked at the sun and I was like, wow, it's fall and the leaves are turning color and it's so beautiful, but it's because they're dying, and that's, that bittersweetness right there. But then it's like, well, wait a minute. Leaves are the solar panels of trees. Do leaves feel and have any form of sentience? We don't even know if trees do, really. But so what does it mean for this leaf to fall to the ground and spring new life? But they have to do this so that the tree can survive for the winter. And what does it mean to willingly sacrifice yourself for the greater community in terms of leaves and trees? And then I was thinking, the sun is so low, and it's only like 3 o'clock in the day or something. And the world is spinning and rotating around the sun, and that's crazy. And just because of the way we're going now, we're like having longer nights and colder days and all this stuff. And then I remember the video I saw that was like, you know, a 2D representation of the solar system is all of the planets orbiting Earth in, you know, circles and stuff. But we have to remember that the sun is moving. And so if the sun is moving, then everything is moving. And so it's not a circle. Really, if you took a more accurate, like, 3D depiction, it would be like a spiral shape or like a drill, right? Where the orbits are maybe the 2D representations, but it's in the context of 3D, and we're like all potentially moving to one singular point, and the universe will just explode in on itself, and then nothingness could appear. But then right when no one knows how the Big Bang happened, and it's like, well, maybe that's how it happened, right? Is everything got clustered into one point, and then it all turned into nothingness and collapsed in on itself. But in doing so, that potential energy turns into kinetic energy, causing the explosion, and then you're like, it just resets. So that's what happens when I walk my dogs home.
Speaking of dogs, listener Sophie just tweeted that she bought my dog mug, and she posted a picture of it.
Wow.
I totally wasn't on Twitter while you were having that speech because I was bored. I was on Twitter because my phone vibrated, and I forgot to put it on silent.
Well, now that you said that part.
No, okay. So I had a couple thoughts, because that obviously spiraled all over the place.
Yes.
While you were talking. So yeah, the idea that, like, these pine cones are made to be seeds of trees, and then, like, they could be knocked off early by the squirrel. Almost all animal and plant and, you know, mushroom, whatever, the plan for them breeding is, I'm just going to have a lot of offspring and hope that, like, one survives, and then most of them won't. Like, think of all the seeds on a dandelion.
Right.
Like, none of those seeds truly become, like, the next plant. And yeah, you know, a tree has all those acorns and pine cones, and the amount that become new trees is obviously very, very small. Especially, imagine a tree's like in the middle of the woods, and all the space around it is already trees. Even if one of them hits the ground, starts growing, it's never going to get enough sunlight because all the other trees around it are right there. You know, but the real thing, you know, as horrific as it is to think about, is like, back in the day, the reason that people had like 6 to 10 kids is because most of them didn't make it out of infancy.
Yeah.
It's like, I gotta have like 2 or 3 kids to like farm the field or whatever, and most of the time they didn't make it out of being like 2 years old.
Crazy.
And then the amount of them who made it to adulthood and went on to have their own families. You know, forget dying in the war or whatever. I'm just talking about, like, didn't get hay fever, or just die in the middle of the night for some reason.
Yeah. The amount of sickness alone.
Yeah, so just like the plan is just like have as many offspring as possible to hope that some of them survive, and also then that needs to, you know, natural selection and evolution, because the ones that are better at fighting off the fever are the ones that live and breed. But it was really messed up, because as you were saying, you were zooming out to think of the whole galaxy, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Say, right, yes, you did do that, yes. Okay. Imagine if the universe was the tree that dropped 1,000 pine cones.
Yeah.
And we, Earth, are just one of the pine cones.
Yeah.
And we are lucky enough that we made it and we became a sapling and we started growing on the forest floor. But we don't yet know that we're doomed because there won't be enough sunlight. We're the sapling growing right next to its parent that doesn't know it's doomed yet.
But are we though? And
I mean, we don't know.
Well,
because
sure.
we're a stupid sapling.
But this is part of the like the specialness as well, right? Because like, oh, we think we're special in our time and age now because so much is going on. But then like the next generation, so forth and so on, will also think that they're special because of all the things that they'll have access to. And again, everyone in their own ways, I suppose is. I feel like I'm slowly approaching quantum levels, and I don't know how computers do it.
I'm reaching quantum levels of disassociating while thinking about how big space is.
Not even I mean, space is the easy way, right? Even just Earth of like, not to be like but everyone is special, or at the very least unique, right? And then it's like, how many people are on the planet? Like 10 billion?
7 billion-ish.
7 billion-ish unique things, and what is and what you I can't imagine 7 billion in my head. I can imagine like 10.
10. That's actually really funny. So I agree.
I can imagine,
right?
12 because of a box of donuts.
We had one of our friends is giving like a big presentation or something, and he messaged me and he's like, when you're like recording yourself in front of a camera for a YouTube video, like how do you deal with the fact that you're gonna have thousands, if not millions, of people watching you and listening to you? Like, how do you get over those nerves? And I go, oh, I guess I've never thought about it. And I checked the numbers on my channel. The amount of views on my Five Nights at Freddy's content is roughly the population of New Jersey.
That's crazy.
And the amount of views on my Chris Chan content is roughly the views of New York State, which is bigger, obviously.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, if you told me, so Yankee Stadium can fit 50,000 people.
Okay.
If you told me that, like, hey, this Five Nights at Freddy's video that you're making that will someday get 6 million views, that's, I'm really bad at math. 220, what's 20 times 6?
20 times 6, 120?
Yeah. That's 120 Yankee stadiums. I'd be like, what? Excuse me?
Yeah.
So, the real answer of what do I imagine when I'm filming is, I imagine about 10 people will watch this. Yeah. I'm thinking about probably 10.
Yeah.
That's like if I'm in a small room with 10 people versus talking to my camera, that's about the same number. If I'm in a room with like 100 people, a classroom, right? Like when I did teaching, a classroom full of kids is about what I think, which is more like 25, is more what I think when I'm recording a video. If I had to stand up in front of 100 people, I have no idea if I'd be nervous or not.
Hey, we can get you to find out. I performed in front of like 100 people or so. And
you were Dracula.
I was in a Dracula, and
you were Van Helsing.
The light was so blinding. The stage light, I just saw shapes and I was like, yeah, okay. This is whatever. I was still a little bit nervous, but it's not like I could see faces or anything judging me. As I maybe smiled too wide. I never know. But my director wasn't happy about it.
You know how... Okay, I imagine like a convention, right? You've been to conventions. You know how like sometimes YouTubers or whatever will have like a little like panel, like there'll be a hall with like a couple hundred seats set up and then they're like on stage or whatever. If we ever get like big enough or whatever, that a circumstance like that would arise, what's your comfort level of that kind of public speaking?
Yeah, it's whatever.
You're cool with it?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Okay.
Because
I don't know.
If people, right, if I get to that level, I'm trying my best to be in a way that I will just, to be relatively authentic, if you will. So if people are already familiar with this, like the podcast, and they're like, Eric is doing a panel, and he's gonna be in a similar way to how he is on the podcast, and I'm fine with that, then like they, must be chill with me. They won't care if I stumble or trip over my words. Everyone there presumably is there in like good faith and to have a good time.
Okay, let's change the prompt then to get rid of that.
Okay.
Let's say that I come to you.
Yes.
And I'm like, Eric, I've just reached a deal with like, the people who make the FNAF games want me to do a panel about my videos, because like my videos are so good.
Right.
And they're like, we want all of your collaborators to be up there with you. So like we want T-Dreads and Unwithered Truth and Candy Bunny and Withered Circle to be up there with you. Also, we want the guy who voices Clifford to be up there with you.
There's one obscure role.
And if he says no, then you don't get
canceled.
the panel at all. Then it's canceled.
Okay.
Then how would you feel?
Yeah,
you'd still be
fine.
cool?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
It's whatever. I think most people act in good faith most of the time. And if I'm just on stage in front of a bunch of people, that's fine. I don't know if it's disassociating or if I'm just comfortable with people or whatever it is. But that's never been too big of a fear of mine or anything. I might still be nervous. I might still have like before it happens, I would definitely, I'm backstage. Just 5 minutes to show. I would have the butterflies in my stomach or my heart pounding a little bit. And then we would get on stage and that would evaporate a bit, I think, if not entirely. I at least, like, before doing whatever a thing is, I'm like nervous and got my feelings, be them emotional or physical, and then when it's like, okay,
why are you having physical feelings? What?
Like the stomach, right? Butterflies in the stomach, or my heart's pounding, and then it's time to like, okay, do or die, and it's like, well, don't want to die, so gotta do.
Okay.
Kind of like Yoda, I guess.
Yeah. Do or do not, there is no try?
Yeah.
Huh.
Which I think is terrible advice, but in this...
It's interesting. That's actually something that we've discussed off the show before. Maybe we can, right after we'll talk to a woman. Okay, once you and I find a woman, we'll talk to a woman. This is the goal. We'll talk to a woman, and then we'll discuss Yoda.
Okay.
We'll ask her 3 questions. What are your thoughts about if a man is still hung up on his first love? What are your thoughts of if a man has been single his whole life and is now in his late 20s? And what do you think about the line, try not, do or do not, there is no try, from The Empire Strikes Back?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a lot of, like...
philosophy.
Philosophical, but like, what do you call it? Like realistic questions, right? What do you think about love? What does it mean? And then the curveball of like, so this thing Yoda said.
And that was the Young Love. No, oh my god. Eric, the episode. It's called Puppy Love. Boom. Got it. Nailed it. Thank you, everyone. Dang. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Goodbye.